Welcome back to the Battery Podcast. I'm Aidan.
And I'm Jack.
And first off, we want to wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully, you are listening to this going to or from some house that will have or has had a lot of food recently. You all hopefully are about to watch the Cowboys lose. The Lions win. I think we can say
I
that we're
think
rooting for the
that,
Lions
yeah,
today. Yeah.
definitely.
I don't even remember who they're
Super
playing.
Bowl favorites? Like
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Since when is any time? I know this is a lacrosse podcast, but literally any time in history, if you, well, maybe not any time in history, but in the 21st century, two NFL teams. One team is 9-1 and one team is 3-8. Those two teams are the Detroit Lions and New England Patriots. Tell me which one has which record.
Yeah, I know.
Like what?
It's it's that like that well, the line from Ghostbusters, like it'd be absolute pandemonium. Cats and dogs living together in harmony. Nothing makes sense.
Yeah, but
Um, yeah, really happy for that.
regardless.
Um, yeah. Anyway, we're hoping you all are having a wonderful Thanksgiving, or will have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you're listening to this right when we post it. Um, yeah. That being said, we will flip over to the main sport that we're here to discuss. Um, with our last episode with Ethan Rall, breaking the news that he will be on the Cannons Champ Series roster in 2025. We thought, before any future guests spoil the rest of the lineup, we would just take a crack at predicting it for you all. Um, I'm not sure exactly when those rosters will be released, but as soon as they do, we'll be out with an episode to just talk about predictions for that tournament. Um, I think also I don't think we mentioned this with Ethan because it hadn't come out yet, but the women's lacrosse league will also debut
Very
this year.
cool.
Yeah, so that'll be four teams, also city based.
Most they did not technically say that it would be four cities that the PLL has, but they said it would likely be. So
Yeah,
I'm really hoping Boston gets a team.
I gotta think so.
I
Like,
gotta think it would be, especially because BC
yeah,
is so good at women's lacrosse. Boston, Maryland,
like you could just do Boston, New York,
Denver.
Philly more, but yeah,
I
I
feel
think.
like they want to spread it out.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was
My think it was either it's going to be two East and two West to spread it out, or they might just do the four cities that are in Champ Series.
I hope they don't because it's Boston, New York, Baltimore, and then Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City.
Yeah. And we're also a little bit thin on details. Like if it's because they said it's going to be a sixes league, it's not going to conflict with Athletes Unlimited at all.
Yeah.
So does that mean they're just playing this Champ Series tournament in February? I hope not. Otherwise, what's the point of having geographic locations?
Eventually, that I'm sure that they will expand
Yeah.
it.
But also like if they're playing in like, sixes is in February, if they're playing in that era, that does kind of limit. Like, I don't think anyone wants to have that be an outdoor league. So do you need facilities like the St. James where the PL has sixes, which is a fantastic facility? I just don't know how many of those there are that the PL,
Right.
um, or you're just playing in the South, which I don't think is happening just based on where the league's at so far, or where the growth of lacrosse is happening.
I mean, Athletes Unlimited is also only 4 weeks in the summer, so theoretically, they
Okay.
could show up to some of the PLL weekends.
Yeah, I think that's just given that the PL is also in control of this, that's probably hopefully the goal. Um,
Yeah.
if they could
One
tack
day
on,
of lacrosse, if you tack on two women's games before the two men's games,
yeah,
maybe you do. Maybe they only play once, so it's like two triple headers
right.
in a
Which
row.
that's a long day. Let me tell you, as someone
That
who,
would be 2 long days.
although sixes game would be a little shorter, but yeah, that would be what you'd have like because the PLs normally they start officially 2.5 hours apart, so you do like a maybe sixes you could just do 2 or 90 minutes. So you do like a 4 or 4:30, and then a six, and then an 8:30.
Yeah, whatever it is. I mean, it's like Libby, all the workers that they're there for so long
Yeah,
already. So it's just you're adding like 2 extra hours to their day.
Yeah. Not to mention like if it's sixes thing, you gotta, move the nets in, paint different set of lines on the field. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So there's a lot of questions still to be answered. Um, I'm looking forward to the answers. Like I know, the PLO also just got named one of the best places to work in sports. Um,
Yeah.
so second year running. And I think the Rabels at the top of their vision is a big part of that. Not that they haven't made mistakes, they'd be the first ones to tell you that, but I think
Hmm.
overall what they're creating for the sport of lacrosse, we all believe in. Obviously, that's why we're here. And we want to support them, help them grow, not just for the men's game, but for the women's too. So hopefully we'll be down in Champ Series. We'll get to see those women's games as well. We did not get to see the AU All-Star game when we were there, unfortunately. We had to be doing our leadership activities, but we'll see. There's going to be a lot more games this time around. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed. But we'll definitely be watching if we're not there. Uh, okay, I think that covers the other news of the lacrosse world. So let's get into the defending champion Boston Cannons, we can say in a manner. Um, I gotta think that Ethan we know is coming back. You know Colin Kirsten, Adam get him in the goalies. I assume are coming back. Um,
Hmm.
I Most of the roster should be the same. Um, Probably the first change. I think we know Jeff Trainer is not going to play in the NLL this year.
The
So
governor.
yeah, so we got the governor hopefully playing defense there. Um, you'd assume he replaces Josh Stout. No offense to Josh and the work he did in the tournament, but I think Trainer's just he's a more natural defenseman. Stout played attack in college, um,
Well,
and
Josh Stout didn't play at all
yeah,
during the season, so he technically isn't even on the team anymore. I think is how that works because he had the 30% rule.
right. I think they could sign him because
You're right. They could
Niazan didn't
sign
play
him.
for the Outlaws or the
You're
the
right. They could sign him. So it's
yeah,
not impossible, but
right.
as things stand, I don't think he's officially on the Cannons.
Yeah, and again, I think Trainer is just an upgrade, especially with the box experience he has now.
Yeah,
That
that too.
he would, yeah, as a transition player there, he'd be a fantastic asset to, I mean, to any team in the league in any format, but I think especially to sixes now. So that's going to be one change. Um, I don't envision Matt Kavanaugh coming back. Um, so that could be another one. I would say the most natural option is maybe you bump Chris Aslanian, who was playing more defense last year, up to offense, and then I would love to know. We don't want to spoil anything. I would love to know why Zach Goodrich wasn't on the roster. If that was a scheduling thing with him, um, if that was still sixes is a very new format for everyone. If they just thought Aslanian had a bit more two-way in him. Um, but if Aslanian gets bumped up to offense and then you bring in Goodrich, who is an elite short stick defender, I think that makes the Cannons a lot better on the back end.
Hmm.
And then the other option, if you want to keep Aslanian down playing defense, is you bring in your favorite player who didn't actually play, Will Manny, who plays a much more similar role to Matt Kavanaugh than Chris Aslanian does.
That would be so fun to see.
And I gotta check um, if he played. I don't think he was on the Whips in 2023. But if he played in Champ Series
No,
that
he was
year,
on the Archers,
he was on the.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, he was on the Whips in 2023, but he was on the Archers until then.
Okay. Yeah. So he didn't. Yeah, he definitely was not on the Whips roster for Champ Series. Um, Let me check the Archers roster because I don't remember if they made it or not. I believe.
They,
Okay. Yeah, he
I
did
think they
play
did.
Champ Series for the Archers then.
Okay, so he's got experience, so
Yep.
I could definitely see him playing
Yeah. 10
then.
goals. Sorry, 10 1 point goals, 1 2 point goal, 5 assists.
Yeah,
Uh,
throw him out there then.
Yeah, I think if he's got enough in the tank, I do think after not playing in the regular season, um, that he's got a he's certainly got a lot to prove. I do think he's maybe a little bit more natural fit if you want to replace the style of player Matt Cavanaugh was.
Yeah.
Um, and certainly he's not going to be shy about shooting it. So I don't know, Jack. Do you want to make an official prediction? Do we see Will Manny playing offense? Do we see Chris Islanian? Or I mean, we could see Matt Cavanaugh.
We could see Matt Kavanaugh. I think the Champ Series is the perfect time to give Will Manny some extended run, though, with the boys and see what he can do and if he can be that solution to the left attack spot. And obviously, I'm biased, so I'm just purely going to say that I'll take Will Manny over Matt Kavanaugh just because I want to see Will Manny don the
Yeah.
Cannons uniform. No shade to Clutch Kavanaugh. I mean, I'm not going to be upset if he's on the roster because he won a champ series in
Hmm.
2024. So he would be a great addition to the team still, I believe. But if I had to make official predictions, I would say that we take Josh Stout out and put Jeff Trainer in for the defensive group. And yeah, you probably are going to see. And I think that actually we take Pat Islanian out as well
Hmm.
and put Zach Goodrich in because Pat didn't really play at all last year. And
No.
then purely for my wanting to see
Yeah.
Will Manny, I will say Will Manny replaces Matt Kavanaugh, but I could legitimate in a attempt to be unbiased, it would make a lot of sense for Matt Kavanaugh to return.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy that we're talking about like the guy who scored the championship winning goal for the Cannons a year ago of like, yeah, he's probably not going to be there. Yeah, we don't know.
Like we don't, yeah, like
Yeah.
that's what I mean. That I feel like as much as I would love to see Will Manny play, I can't say that I don't want Matt Kavanaugh because I absolutely want Matt Kavanaugh.
Yeah, I mean, against just short sticks with generally a lot more space to work. Like I think let me look up how many points he had a year ago, but it's going to
A
be
lot.
yeah. And he definitely is going to put up numbers again. Let's see. So yeah, Knowlton led. So it's 16 points, 11 goals, 5 assists. Uh no twos, but that's okay. And again, the most important goal of the whole tournament, the championship winner in overtime after man, that was like yeah, we were there in person. Like one of the best lacrosse games, the lacrosse experiences we've ever had.
For
Uh
sure. That was exciting. That was a
yeah,
lot of
that
fun.
the incredible DeLuca save that after those happened, I was positive the Cannons were going to lose because just how could you get that lucky and not from the Water perspective, how could you get that lucky and not win? Um, but Curse coming up big. I think it was a first possession was a shot that missed. Second possession was the no first possession. Um, yeah, shot that missed, turnover, and the second possession was I think a Caraway two that Curse saved that then
Yeah.
led down to the another DeLuca save, a rebound, the Kavanaugh winner. So I don't know. I hope it's not that exciting. I hope the Cannons win by a little more, like by two maybe, uh, this time around. But for the it could not beat the entertainment factor there.
No, definitely not. That was, regardless of sport, one of the most exciting games I've ever watched.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, all right, I guess it's hard to make this prediction before we know the other team's rosters, before we even know the Cannons roster. Although I think we agreed that roster is going to be largely the same, but
Hmm.
we want to make a very tentative prediction about the result of Champ Series 2025.
Cannons over Atlas.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm going to go with that too. I think looking at the Whips roster from 2 years ago, it is like majority people who are not on the team anymore. Let me quick pull up the names, but It is the website is not letting me click it. There we go. Maryland Whip Snakes. This anything could happen. Just fill the dead air. 2023 Champ Series roster for the so we got Brad Smith. He's going to be
Hmm.
there. Justin Gutterding, he's retired. Keegan Khan, maybe. He hasn't really stuck at the PLL level, but we'll see. Will Perry, I don't think he played this past year. Ty Warner, he's in medical school. Jay Carlson, he's retired. Matt Abbott, he's retired. Wheaton Jacobois, he's a short stick team mid player. Robin Puglisi, um, great player for them, team midi, and then Brendan Kamish. Is it? I don't even. Yeah, Brennan Kamish, who also did not play, uh, has not played since 2022.
Hmm.
That is, let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six players. Also plus Brian Phipps, who has retired in goal, and Reed Junkin, who also has not played since when the stats will load. I can't even pull it up, but I think he only played in this champ series. Um,
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, there are a lot of names there that I've never heard.
yeah. So it's tough to get a read on them. Uh, but Krebs and Gold does not scare me as much as certainly not as much as Liam Entenmann does. Um,
Hmm.
not as much as Brett Dobson does, but he's going to be playing in the NLL. We'll talk about them in a minute. And then it's tough to know just who's going to be on that roster. You figure most of their SSDMs who, aside from Puglisi and Bernhardt, I can't name. Dordovic and Malone though, that'll be scary. So I'm looking forward to seeing them, except when they're playing the Cannons. Um, and then from the Archers, like they're not going to have Brett Dobson again, who's playing the NLL, and then Tom Schreiber, Mac O'Keefe, and Connor Fields for the same reason. Also, I would say that's over half of their offense and their, should have won goalie of the year not playing. So no offense to everyone else on the Archers, but that does not scare me nearly as much as the Cannons roster or the Atlas roster or even
Hmm.
the Warhawks roster from last year.
Yeah.
So Cannons over Atlas. I think you all knew we were going to pick the Cannons to win the thing. um, I think, and the Atlas won't have Jeff Teat, but everyone else on their roster or most of their other roster is American, so shouldn't make too much of a dip in production. And I think we're very excited to see Connor Schellenberger in sixes again, except when he's playing the Cannons.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
all
Should
right,
we move on to some questions?
yeah, absolutely. Um, well, first one from at Zach_2_9 back-to-back sixes champions. I mean, I think we said it there that
Yeah.
I love like the Cannons and the Atlas or the Cannons and the Archers are the only two teams coming back for second year in a row. So we'll see. I'm sure the Atlas and the Whips have learned something from 2 years ago when they were in the first ever tournament. Um, but I think the continuity of being there last year and especially most of the same group of guys returning is going to matter a lot. Like
Hmm.
Ethan said, when we had him on, that they've learned a lot of stuff. They didn't want to talk too much about the strategy. Um, and I think an understated part of this is how exciting it is to be part of something so new, like Champ Series, this new form of lacrosse that I confess I was not a big fan of when I first watched it 2 years ago. Um, but Boston winning, I think, did a lot to make me a fan of it. And
Hmm.
it's like the strategy evolving so rapidly, which yes, does have a lot in common with box lacrosse, of course, but the 2 point line makes a big difference. The more space makes a big difference. The very limited roster size, which is just another thing to talk about, is it would be lovely to have, maybe a 12 like forwards or field players instead of 10 just to give those guys a little bit of a breather.
Right.
Um, but the strategy for this is so new and constantly evolving that I think in 5 years, 10 years, of this, we're going to watch the 2023 and 2024 games again, and it'll feel very, very different and, maybe even primitive with
True.
how much, especially if you see like I think we expect these four teams playing a champ series this year to be among, if not the best teams next year as well. So we'll probably see two or three of them back again, um,
Right.
hopefully including the Cannons. But like none of these teams look like they're going anywhere. Archer's back-to-back defending champs, Atlas incredible regular season, Cannons incredible regular season, Whips had a bit of a downturn a year ago, but um,
Have always been good,
yeah,
mostly.
and have added two electric young players in Malone and Dordovic.
Hmm.
Scoring as many goals as they are, it's hard not to be good.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so we'll see. I think the Chaos are the only team not to have made it. I don't
Hmm.
particularly want that to change, but just because I want the Cannons to keep going, and
Well, they're also so box heavy that it's like
yeah,
their champ series team wouldn't be the chaos.
right. It's similar to how like the Archers don't have Dobson, so we wouldn't be scared of them. The Chaos won't have Blaze Reardon. They won't have Josh Byrne, and then a lot of their other excuse me, a lot of their other box guys didn't play this past season. They really revamped their roster, which is
Hmm.
exciting. But yeah, no Reardon, no Byrne, no Dane Smith. Like that roster isn't or does not scare as many people as it would with them. So
Right.
I think not that they can't do well in the regular season to get there, but similar to the
Hmm.
Archers, it's going to take them a long time to win it, just with the personnel they have being so Canadian heavy. I think it's Maea's Canadian, Ian McKay. Um,
Yeah.
there's well, Maea not as much as those other guys I mentioned. No offense to Braden Maea, but like those are some key pieces that they're missing.
The point still holds that
Yeah,
they would be missing massive pieces if they were there.
yeah. Like if you and again, no shade to Austin Kaut, but you tell any team you're facing the chaos, but Blaze Reardon isn't in goal, that team breathes a huge sigh of relief.
Definitely.
Yeah,
100%.
having the Cannons'
I
most recent
mean,
be against the
we
Cannon. The
sit
Chaos.
4 goals.
Yep.
Yeah, that was not fun.
No, no, it was not. So we look forward to again wishing I hope he just has a wonderful professional career outside of lacrosse and wants to spend more time with his family and
That would be
decides that
nice.
the travel is just too much for him.
That would be really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I would wish him well. Um,
Absolutely. All right. Next one from at Dylan. I'm not 100%. I will say Gibbo.
I
GUI.
bet I think that's French. I think it might be like Gibbo.
Yeah. Gibbo sounds right.
Dylan, please forgive us.
Yeah, I'm sure he's familiar with it. But Dylan just says, "Can Lau come back, please?" Um, that'd be nice.
I mean, we've talked about it before. I would love for Lyle to come back. He's one of the best lacrosse players on the planet. So if he was on the Cannons, I'm not going to complain. I mean, we we could use a third attack man.
Yeah.
Um, he would certainly fill that role, I guess. But
Oh, again, he's a
I
righty.
he's a righty, but he's so crafty. He can play whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
He's done with the field game with the PLL, and I respect his decision. It is, as we just jokingly said about Blaze, the travel is absolutely a grind,
Yeah.
and it just makes a lot more sense for him to be home with his family. He's a father of what, six?
Yeah.
Like,
5 or 6.
and like it's also the summer. So, all his kids are in school during the year. They're off during the summer. So basically the time that he would get to spend the time of year that he would spend the most time with his children is when he would spend the most time on the road.
Yeah.
So it's a completely understandable, and kudos to him for making that choice to prioritize. his family
Yeah.
as he should. And so I think that the Cannons just gotta, as they have, they've fully moved on and just treat it like he is not ever gonna come back.
No, which I think the one scenario where he would come back to the PLL would be if the PLL went to the fully city-based model, you had the Atlas still in Albany, or even crazier, bring back the Rochester Rattlers. That's probably close enough where because I
In
don't know if
that,
he lives, but that's
yeah. So maybe that's why he hasn't officially retired. He's waiting to see
yeah.
just how long it takes for them to go city based, and maybe he's still got some juice left for enough one more run once they do go to that permanent location.
Yeah. Which I would like. I know he's 32. I just looked it up.
Okay, so I
He's
mean,
got a few
if
years.
the target is LA 28 to be permanent, that's 4 years away. He'd be 36. Would he be old and past his prime? Yeah, likely, but you can definitely still play
Right. Because
at
it's
that
also,
age. Friggin' John Grant Jr.
yeah, playing at, I think
Like
63 was when he retired.
something.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Yeah. It's also worth noting Lyle isn't retired from lacrosse. He's still playing in the NLL and he's still playing in
Right,
Series Lacrosse, which is the Canadian Summer Box League. Uh,
right. Yeah, no, it's just the PLL.
yeah. Let's see. Oh, this has not been updated recently enough. Um, to find out what MSL teams are. I want to say it's the Six Nations Chiefs. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
I've
Who
heard that before.
yeah, that's it's one of those legendary teams up there that if you're an American you've never heard of.
Yeah.
But you just said you have heard of it, but you couldn't I couldn't tell you.
I couldn't even tell you how many teams are in the league.
Me neither. Somewhere between 2 and 50, probably.
That sounds like a reasonable guess.
Yeah. So if he's still playing like that, although again, he's been playing in major series lacrosse for so much time. Uh,
Yeah.
but I would like that would be such a good movie though. The PLO goes to city based, the Cannons trade him to the Atlas. Schellenberger moves to midfield and he just has one last run and they lose to the Cannons in the final.
Yes.
Uh
Uh,
yeah, I mean I wish like we all want to see him play. Not enough to watch major series lacrosse because we got other stuff going on. Um, but I do watch enough NLL that to see him play. I don't think he does as well. No, he does just as much magical stuff, but I think that the extra space of the field game does allow him to be a little bit more creative.
I bet.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, just the passes are further, and the shots are from further away, and
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a good run, but yeah, we're certainly grateful. But also, when Lyle was on the team, Asher Nolting was playing midfield, so like I'm glad that he's in the right spot now.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of players being in the right spot, I'm just done underscore 88 wants us still talking about Pat Kavanaugh being traded, which that is going to be, I cannot imagine how many times that's going to get brought up on the PLL broadcast this year, especially whenever it is
Hmm.
the Cannons play the Outlaws. Um,
Yeah.
that is, I mean, it's a huge trade. I think well, Kavanaugh fell to 6. Like he could have been taken at 1 in most years, and so
Oh,
was good enough.
absolutely.
Yeah, was good enough to be in the conversation for at least second, third pick. It was more just a fit thing, and I yeah no yeah it was a fit thing. Like the Atlas took what they needed at 2 and 5. Chaos needed a midfielder, and then the Whips needed a defender. And we saw how good Ajax Zapatello was for them.
Right.
We're certain
Yeah.
how good TJ Malone was for them too in the third round. So
Mhm.
I don't think any of those other teams regret passing on Kavanaugh. Um, but it is kind of surprising that the only first round draft pick on the Cannons is gone after a year.
True. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that part, but yeah, it was interesting. I was just reading the article that Sarah posted the other day about the trade, and she talked to Brian Holman beat us to it.
Yep.
But it was really surprising to me to hear that he actually requested the
Yeah.
trade. I fully understand it. It's not a, oh, I diva sort of I want out kind of thing. But he, I, you see it because in the season he said he felt more comfortable coming out of the midfield, but then now apparently he wanted to play attack,
Yeah.
but he wanted to be the ex-attackman like he was in college, and you're not going to move Asher. And so I guess when Brian said that's Asher's spot, Pat said, okay, trade me somewhere else.
Yeah.
And kudos to Brian for, you know, saying, okay, we will find a spot for you. We don't want you to be disgruntled or unhappy or not at your best. That's not a recipe for success for anyone here, but also for being firm and saying, I'm not going to trade you just to trade you. So he held to his guns and was going to make sure that he got fair value for Pat Cavanaugh. I mean, num we got Pat with the number 6 pick, and now we'll have the number 3 pick plus what is it, a 2026 second rounder? So
Yeah. Somewhere between 9 and 16.
like I suppose that is fair value.
Yeah.
And especially with knowing that it just wasn't going to work with Pat on the team, it ultimately does make a lot of sense. It was just really interesting, I thought, to find out that it was a trade request.
Yeah. That that it was the Cannons who, or I guess it was Pat who initiated it, and then the Cannons who initiated it to the
Yeah.
Outlaws, which I mean, I suppose it's fair. Like, I can't imagine other GMs asking like, "Hey, is Connor Schellenberger or Brendan O'Neill available?" Like, you just assume those guys are untouchable.
Right. But you would think that Pat would want to play with Matt. Who
Yeah,
knows? Maybe Matt's not playing next year though.
yeah. That is a really interesting question. Like, because we've talked about this already, that the Outlaws are the team that needs Matt Kavanaugh the least, with Brendan O'Neill and Logan Wisnauskas, both of
Hmm.
whom lefty attack. I can't really see Kavanaugh playing anywhere else. O'Neill, yes, could play the midfield, but not to make room for Matt.
Hmm.
And I mean, I'm still not convinced that an O'Neill Wisnauskas pairing is going to work. So part of me is still holding out hope that Logan Wisnauskas will be in a Cannons jersey come June or May, whenever I guess when training camp starts. Um, but I'm also not totally sold that he is like not totally sold, I guess, that his Tuarton season is like who he is as a player versus him exceeding expectations on one of the best lacrosse teams of all time in that 2022 Maryland team, who won every game by I think an average of like 9 goals. Uh, but
Ridiculous.
Nebraska scored a lot of them to his credit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it is. I worry a little because we know Pat struggled with injuries really for the last 2 years. And so we did not see him at his best, both because of his positional fit and also because of his health.
Hmm.
That assuming now he is going to be finally healthy for 2025, um, that he's really going to like explode, and that'll make the Cannons trade look really bad. But I think
Well, it
we
all depends on who we get
yeah,
at number 3, though.
yeah. If they take, I think Coulter Mackesy is the biggest name being talked about filling from Princeton, who has done
Hmm.
a lot of scoring in his college career. Would love if it was Sam King from Harvard for obvious reasons, but he's right-handed, so
He's
probably
also, I think he's a second round guy. I don't think he's a first round guy. Not
yeah,
that we can't fill that need with a second round pick,
yeah. I
but
mean, I would love for him to get a training camp invite just
yeah.
because, like, I think he's going to be a pro somewhere. Um,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah. Um, but anyway, yeah.
But
Well, the success or failure of this trade does depend a lot on who is playing attack for the Cannons in
mhm.
June and how many points do they score? Like I think if I don't know, would you consider it a failure if they take like Levi Virch or one of those other defenseman LSMs and then like I don't know that there's a faceoff guy you take at four, but maybe like a midfielder like
No. I can't imagine you take a Fogo
no.
that early. No. I think
Like do they need to use
I,
those two picks on a lefty attackman?
not if you have full faith in Will Manny or Matt Kavanaugh or Mike Robinson or someone in the second round. I think that you just well, Pat Pat wasn't even going to really fill that lefty attack. So no, I think that it's not so much about how they fill the lefty attack spot. It's what do they do with the third overall pick
Yeah.
that I think is the big thing. And does that person help the Cannons? And how much does Pat Kavanaugh help the Outlaws? That's what you debate.
Yeah. Um it is also like I would hope Brian's at least called Bill Tierney and asked about moving up to one. I like if would you take three and four for one? Um, because if they like CJ Kurse would be the perfect fit, right? Lefty attackman, explosive dodger. Um, they got the Kurse family connection as well.
Yeah.
Uh, and plus the Water Dogs have Sowers at X and they have McCardle on the lefty wing. So yeah, like CJ Kurse running out of the box, I'm not sure I believe in that. I think you might run into the same situation you had with Pat this year, or you had the Water Dogs had with Brandow. Like Brandow belongs at attack, and he never really looked
Mhm.
comfortable at midfield, and as a result, he only played like two or three games.
Right.
He was nowhere
Well,
near the production he had as a college player.
I mean, if that's the case, you just move up to two with the Redwoods because if the Water Dog, I know Cursed is
Mm.
sort of the guy, but
Yeah, it could
like
be Chris Cav as well, um, who I can never remember. I think he's a righty.
I don't know.
Um,
Yeah, he's a righty.
okay,
Chris Cav's a righty,
so
so
so maybe, and I know that the
maybe the Dogs take Chris Cav, and then the Cannons can move up to two to take Cursed.
Yeah. I feel like you don't necessarily make that plan until the college season is a good chunk underway. And you see,
Right. You want to see how guys perform.
yeah, because
I
for
mean,
the
you've got so much time to
yeah,
figure out what's going to happen at the draft.
yeah, we are doing
This is ridiculous.
exactly what I criticize other sports networks for doing, where it's like, hey, the draft is not for eight, like the second the NFL season ends, people are like, what about the draft? I'm like, guys, we got plenty of time.
Yeah.
But at least in that situation, there isn't a full season, college season to play. Um,
Yeah, so this is like even more ridiculous because we're further away from the draft and there's way more that could happen to change draft stock.
right. Like see, Chris Kavanaugh could
So
join the army or like
literally, yeah.
yeah.
So maybe let's just keep it rolling then.
Yeah.
Uh, we're
I
we're getting off the rails here.
yeah, we are going to talk
Um,
about Pat Kavanaugh so much more between now and the first week of the year.
yeah,
All right. I think yeah, we got a couple more. So at T Harrington underscore 19, is Brian Holman the best current coach in Boston sports?
no.
Yeah, unfortunately, no, it's Joe Mazzulla.
Joe Mazzulla. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Like I love you, Brian, but like Joe won a championship.
Yeah.
Not that
In
not
his
that
second year.
championships in his second year, but I think that Joe Mazzulla, like
He
I
is
love Brian Holman. He's phenomenal. He is such a good coach, and we talked on this podcast about how there's a lot of similarities between the two. And I'm not saying it's Brian's fault, but we've suffered two brutal losses in the playoffs in back-to-back years.
yeah.
And Joe Mazzulla went. He
Well,
we
for his
went
first
to
year, we also
East.
had a
For first
tournament.
year was a brutal loss, but then steamrolled last year, won a championship, and has the Celtics looking like a juggernaut again
Yeah.
without Kristaps Porzingis. Even so, I think you like I hate to be just a kiss the ring guy, but I think you have to default to Joe Mazzulla almost just simply because of the championship.
Now, I agree with you, but Cannon's defending champ series winners. So
Okay, but that's like saying that
the
that
NBA
would
Cup,
be like the NBA Cup. Yeah. Like that I'm sorry, but it doesn't it's not like I don't care.
yeah. No,
I genuinely don't care about the NBA Cup. The only reason that I'm interested in Champ Series is because it actually is something different and it's a different form of the game and it's really exciting and it's in the off season, so it gives me a little taste of lacrosse when there's not lacrosse going on. That's the only that's what Champ Series has going for it
yeah. If
is
the NBA
is
Cup was in, I don't know, August,
July or August. And well, like it's already a 5-on-5 sport, but like
3-on-3. Yeah.
if it was like some crazy 3-on-3 like half court tournament, like that would be fun to watch.
Yeah.
But just
That should be the All-Star
repack it
team.
literally, but just repackaging the regular season, get out of here. No. Like it like imagine if the PLL just said that like the Minnesota weekend was the champ series. Like
Yeah, that would suck.
no. So all that to say no, and I think Brian would agree with me that the trophy that they're really after is oh geez, what the hell does the PLL even call the trophy? It's just the Cash App trophy, I think.
Yeah, it was the Cash App Championship.
I think it's the Cash App Championship trophy. But I
Uh,
don't think it's got like a cool name,
but it's made by Tiffany's. I know that.
Tiffany or something.
Um,
Regardless, the point
yeah,
is that the Cash App Championship is a hell of a lot more important than the championship series
yeah,
championship. So
yeah. It is the Cash App Championship trophy, which hopefully, when the league gets more money, they can afford to name it themselves something.
not
For a sponsor.
not a sponsor. Yeah,
Uh, yeah,
that would be nice. I
ideally,
totally
yeah,
get it.
yeah,
Get the money wherever you can right now, but that is so many.
yeah.
Like
Um,
the Steinfeld Cup,
yeah,
that's a good name.
yeah. I don't.
Maybe one day, when they're no longer with us, it'll be the Rabel Cup.
Yeah, that would make the most sense, but they can't name it after themselves while they're both still alive. That
That's
would,
why I said when they're no longer with
yeah,
us.
yeah. Um, I do hope it gets another name before then, though, because hopefully the
Yeah,
Ravens have many long years ahead of them.
for sure.
So I mean, I think we could say that Holman might be the second best coach. I think it's too early to say for Gerard Mayo. Um,
Way too early to say for Joe Sacco.
yep. Yeah, we know it's not Jim Montgomery. You could definitely make an
Uh,
argument for Cora.
you
Um,
could he you can make an argument for him being two, definitely. I think.
yeah.
I think you still have to say Joe Mazzulla because he's well,
Oh,
Alex Cora did win
yeah. No,
a
I'm
championship.
saying Cora for two. Like it's between him
Oh,
and
okay.
I don't know who the current coach of the Revs is, but I know they've been awful the last couple of years. Um,
They don't count.
well, I think a lot of Revs fans would say that the Cannons don't count. So I want to include
Touche.
what I can. Uh,
Touche.
PWHL Boston, again, after one year, it is a bit early to say, but they did make it to the finals. Um,
The
oh, the
Boston
Boston Fleet now.
Renegades.
Oh,
Oh, the Boston Fleet. Boston Renegades, the women's pro football team. They've won like 5 championships in a row, so their coach might be really good.
and geez, I can't think of the name of the rugby team now.
The
The
Free Jacks.
the Free Jacks, yeah, back to
Their
back
coach,
champion.
but their coach just left. I saw.
Okay,
So like
The
The
coachless
coach
now.
that led him to back. He's not. He took a job in Ireland or something like that.
Well, good for him.
Um,
Um, so yeah, I
the
think we
Boston Glory, the ultimate team.
yeah.
I don't know. What other teams we got? I think that's it.
Yeah, I'm
We don't have a WNBA team. Connecticut doesn't count.
no, women's their coach just left too.
True.
Women's pro soccer league.
That doesn't start till 26.
Oh, there's no okay.
The
So
the the Boss Nation FC, such a lame name.
yeah, that's bad.
And we don't officially have a Boston WLL team yet.
Yeah, or
Yet.
I mean, yeah, and there are also no players or coaches assigned. So
And
uh
there's no Boston NLL team. Lame. Bring back the Blaze.
absolutely. Yeah, God, if Trina, if the Firewolves could have moved from Albany to back to
To
Boston
Boston, Boston
and
Blaze and
Trina on
train.
the team,
That'd be sick
hopefully someday. Um,
someday.
there's teams
But
in like Buffalo, Rochester, Albany, and there used to be New York. Like
that's
all
so
three of those
many.
cannot continue. Buffalo, Rochester, and Albany.
That's like I get it, but that would be like the PLL putting a team in Annapolis, Baltimore,
And
and
Washington, D.C.
DC or something like that.
Yeah.
Like guys, let's grow the game. Let's
Yeah.
spread it out.
And Buffalo does really well. I think Albany, I know, has some issues. I would imagine Rochester somewhere in the middle. But yeah, ultimately, those if the league really wants to expand, I mean, that's
Yeah.
totally different podcast and technically a different sport. So we'll drop the NLL conversation for now.
Yeah. Let's bring it home. What's the last question there?
Yeah. So we got from OHJ1315, the PLL schedule currently overlaps with college lacrosse. I mean, kind of not really. And the NFL.
Actually, it does not at all.
No, it doesn't. It's the week after. But it does. I mean, as we saw for Kavanaugh and Entenmann and the other tour people on Champ
It,
Weekend, is
okay, training camp starts the
yeah,
weekend of the Final Four.
yeah. All right. So, I mean, it goes right up against it. And then it overlaps with the NFL and college football on the back end. So, is it in the best interest of the league and growing the game to condense into the summer months and only compete with MLB and MLS?
It's two answers to this question, sort of. Or
Fantastic question, by
yes,
the way.
yes, it is fantastic question. Yes, it is in the best interest of the league to change the schedule because having your championship in the middle of NFL Sunday is a, a ratings disaster.
Yeah,
No one
it's
is
the biggest.
watching that game.
No.
No one is watching that game. No one is going to that game. That is football season. That the the season should end just like college ends on Memorial Day. We should end Labor Day.
Yeah.
Or or I understand that we don't want to cannibalize lacrosse fandom, but every other sport runs concurrently. College football and NFL
Yeah.
are the same time. They're both fall sports. College hockey and the NHL both run from October till NHL extends longer, but point is it's fall to spring. College basketball and the NBA, same thing. College baseball is a little, and the MLB a little bit different, but so like maybe you could follow more of the college baseball MLB
Yeah.
model. But the main point there being that I don't see why you can't have it overlap slightly and start maybe March, April, even May. Most let them play, let college get through the regular season
And the
and then
conference part.
start during the NCAA tournament. I get you got TV issues there still because college games are all weekend, PLL games
Yeah.
weekend. So I fully understand that there's a lot of logistics and there's a lot of options, but like it was tough for Pat and a lot of guys to come in from college and go right in. And I know some guys actually like that because of the whole they're in playing shape, whatever. So there's I'm talking in circles because I'm realizing as I say the words that there's no silver bullet for when exactly the season should start and end. However, I know for a fact that it should not overlap with the NFL. That much I
Yeah.
feel confident in saying, whether that means shortening the season, whether that means just moving it up a few weeks, or whether they just say screw it and overlap with completely with college lacrosse. You just you need to end in the summer. It has to be done by September.
Yeah, I think the ending on Labor Day makes the most sense. The other option, which I think I saw or heard Dan Arestia mention on his podcast, is you have the championship game the same week, just on like Tuesday instead of Sunday. Like just have every player like I mean, you don't want like the rookies who are just starting new jobs, like they got to ask for time off
Friday
immediately.
night.
Yeah, like even yeah, or a Friday night where you're taking one day off of work, like every player in the league can put in for it the start of the year, like as soon as the because the players obviously get the schedule before the rest of us do. Like they
Yeah.
know, all right, was the 15th this past year, so they know it's either going
Yes.
to be
Friday the 13th.
well, maybe not that day. Yeah, that Friday the 13th or Tuesday the 17th after. Friday, you're right, is a better choice. Friday night, keep it at the same venue. It's not going to overlap with college football. It's not going to interfere with, which is the real reason they can't have it on a Saturday is because ESPN's showing college football all
Right.
day.
I mean, like there are college football games on Friday nights, but the big game is always the Fox Friday night game. I don't think ABC has a broadcast window for college football on Friday nights.
And it's
So that
certainly
you
not a
should
prime game.
no. So you
Alabama's never playing Friday night.
no, and especially that early in the season,
Yeah,
like you should be able to get ABC on a Friday early in September.
yeah,
I would
uh,
imagine.
yeah.
I'm sure maybe ABC's got some random sitcom or something that they have to show, which because I'm sure that Mike and Paul have thought about this and would have done that if it was that simple. But there's got to be
Yeah. Like,
you've got to avoid football at all costs. If
yeah,
you want to truly grow the league, avoid football at all
I know.
costs.
Like, there's a lot of things I want to be different about the PLL. Chiefly, like, I wish, that they were making, NHL type money and had an NHL like length salary schedule where they're playing maybe not 82, but 50 games a year, all nights of the week, and this whole thing would be moot. But of the number one things that the PLL could fix for this coming season, um, yeah, not having their game be 3 o'clock on a Sunday in September, please. And like almost any, I would honestly, I'd rather have it be at 10 in the morning because at least
Yeah.
like if it's in Foxborough, like we're still going to that, especially if the Cannons are in. If it's not in Foxborough, like, I mean, it does make it tough for the West Coast people, but California is not going to be in the championship game, um, at least for a couple of that yeah that have it be then or like yeah Friday night 7:30 8 o'clock whatever. um I guess you do have to then you also have to well no because it doesn't have to be at that venue in Philadelphia. So if I don't even know I think that's where the Union play but assuming it is like
Yeah.
ask them to have an away game or put the championship game somewhere else like I don't like the idea.
There's other venues you can play in. There's definitely a venue that is free on Friday night in September.
Yeah. I also don't love it being the same place every year when that same place is also basically a home game. Where I think Philly certainly could be back in the championship
Yeah.
game next year or the year after, and giving them a home game for the playoffs in what's ostensibly a neutral site. Um, I don't love. I also don't think like they do the All-Star game in Louisville. I don't think the championship game should be in like Chicago or Austin or Dallas or something like that.
No, I
Like
think I actually like it being neutral site for because for it does help with the growth and the expansion of the league. Like as cool as it was for them to come to Gillette, and us to essentially get 2 home weekends. I would love if they truly only went to one city or went to a
City.
city once a year and that all 3 playoff weekends were legitimate neutral sites.
Yeah. I
If you truly want to get out there and reach as many fans as possible, don't double up in markets. They went to
yeah.
Boston. Well, I guess technically Albany and Hofstra are different, but they went to Boston and Philly twice.
Yeah.
All people were all up in arms that the Midwest and Texas didn't get teams. You're the MLL had championship games at the Star in Frisco. Why can't the PLL
Yeah.
put the championship game there? Well,
Yeah.
probably
Good.
because the Cowboys are practicing, maybe.
Yeah.
Or there's high school football. Okay, so
Maybe not the
point
Star.
is find a stadium in Texas
Yeah.
for a playoff weekend. Hofstra and Albany, or I guess they're different enough, so fine if you really want to keep Hofstra, but like
Have it at Notre Dame.
Notre Dame would be sick.
Yeah.
Like
Or
just
Michigan,
spread it
like
out.
an upcoming, like they won their conference.
Fl
Um,
Florida's another good market to look for
yeah.
having a game.
Atlanta.
Yeah, so I would do neutral sites for all 3 playoff rounds.
Yeah. My only concern with that is especially if you had it in Texas, there's really like Denver's the only team that you could reasonably consider close. And like I don't know that like we're probably not flying to Texas, especially if we only have a week's notice that the Cannons are going to be in the game. And now that they have the home cities, that's my only concern. Where you could have it, it's hard to pick a neutral site on the East Coast, because the teams are all just littered up and down. You basically got five of them. Um,
Fair.
but you also can't like again with the week notice of the tour based model, it's really tough to schedule a home playoff game for whoever wins it.
Right. Well, and I think ideally long term the teams get permanent home venues and then maybe you do sort of an MLS thing where the higher seeded championship team, even in the championship game, gets to host,
Yeah,
and you don't have to worry about scheduling it so far in advance. But for now, obviously, you do have to book these venues far out, and you have such little inventory, and there's only 8 teams, but there's definitely more markets that want a team. So
yeah,
at least give them a game. Like it, it truly would find who is the best team, who is most deserving of a championship, because neither team would have a lot of their passionate fans there in that scenario of like flying to Texas. You don't have any potential home crowd advantage. It's truly just who's going to be the better team on the field because the crowd isn't going to help either of us.
yeah. At least I mean, to some degree, I'm sure. Like, um, sorry, the
Theoretically.
yeah, the crowd wouldn't probably be exactly 50-50. Like maybe there are, for whatever reason, a ton of Atlas fans in
Yeah.
Dallas, but
Theoretically.
yeah, yeah. Because I really don't enjoy thinking about if Philly's in the championship next year, and like
That's
especially
what I mean.
Cannons in Subaru.
That's what I mean. That's an easily avoidable issue.
Yeah. But I
Don't put
also,
the game in Philly because
yeah,
you know that
just
it'll be
don't give
all
him
water
anything either.
dogs. Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
On
But
that note,
yeah, and it's also tough that again, overlapping with NFL, like they can't have they probably can't have the championship game be at an NFL stadium, because that day you could be an away game, but I don't know how the deal works exactly, but uh,
the MLS stadium
legal.
is perfect.
Yeah, it honestly is. Like I went to the 2021 game at Audi Field where DC United play.
Hmm.
It's the perfect venue. Like
Yeah,
um, if the Bayhawks come back, they should play there. Maybe the Whipsnakes should move there. If the Bayhawks don't come back, it's such a
that
good venue.
DC would be a great neutral site location because I know that's Tech. Maryland is right there, but Baltimore and DC have
Yeah,
teams,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
it is close enough for other East Coast teams.
Yeah,
to
it's
potentially make that
especially
trip.
yeah, Philly is not bad. Charlotte's a hike, but you can make it work. Like, and it's
And
not that long
Boston and New
away
York
from
have enough flights.
yeah. I do also want to weigh in on the beginning half of the year, um, because I know you had a lot of thoughts about it.
Okay.
Um, that you're right, comparing it with college sports. I think the biggest difference between the PLL and all those other like Big Four, Big Five, if you want to include soccer, um, that in the PLL, like the rookies go from college to starting in the pros right away. And so
Yeah.
having them come in midseason, I know that the MLL used to do that because the season started in April for a while.
Well, that's my thing though, is that why I think it's fine to overlap because there's no reason that they should have to immediately because it I know that they're in playing shape, but having them try to jump in uh a potentially a week after their season ended, they didn't even know who they were playing for until about 5 days
Yeah,
beforehand. Imagine how much better it would be if the PLL was aligned with college lacrosse and then they had let's say, you know, the, the, yeah, I mean, how long is the season? June, July, August into September. So let's say you don't want to deal with potential snow. So let's say you start the season mid-March, maybe April, and you play through the summer, but then you hold your draft after the season. Let the college players relax in the summer and hold your draft in late summer, fall, whenever PLL season is done, and
Hmm.
then give them an entire off season to get acclimated with their new team.
Yeah. I would prefer that. I think the league
Because
has to.
they're also, sorry, one more thing, because also with the point of like they're not full time, they're not really full time. It also lets them get their post college life figured out a little bit before adding in lacrosse, and maybe that also helps. Like, am I going to be able to balance playing professional lacrosse with my actual full time job? And that can be something that helps coaches slash GMs make better selections because they know if this guy is going to be able to put in the work or not.
Yeah. I think on the other side though, the league would have to get to a full-time model for that to make more sense because I think part of what they want to do now is capitalize on the success that the top college players have and bring them in right away. Like the last
Fair.
year's draft was unique, but like O'Neal and Schellenberger and Kavanaugh were so hyped up that if we had had to wait 10 more months, 8 more months, whatever it was,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Good point.
yeah. So I think for now, the ideal is to start as soon as you can right after this, so the week after Memorial Day.
Yep.
Uh, and it's just going to be tough for the guys who are playing championship weekend, and especially the Tewaaraton finalists.
Hmm.
Um, but they're the best players in the country; they should be able to handle it. Even if like we saw with Pat Kavanaugh, they don't have the most impressive debuts, or like Entenmann, they have to sit for a couple weeks to just sleep and like learn what the
Right.
the scheme is.
Right.
Um, but ultimately, I do hope that they get to like I think we're gonna live to see where they're making full-time money. It's a real like every night a week some team is playing league. And
Hmm.
if that happens, I don't want to be going outside to watch lacrosse in February, but I think starting in April would be fine. And then that also would let you um, play much later into the fall, where it could be in April to October, much more similar to baseball. And if the championship is a best of three or best of five or best of seven, you just play every other night, um, as in, every second night, like they do in MLB yeah, MLB, NHL, NBA,
Hmm.
and sometimes that's going to line up with the NFL, but should just be a prime time game if you're playing in the evening. And so hopefully those local fan bases would still tune in, but we are a long, long way away from that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, the NLL really just started doing best of three series. So if we live to see the day where the PLL championship is a best of three, I will consider that a glorious success. I think a lot of other good things will happen along the way. Uh,
Yeah.
and I don't know if we'll mandate or something where rookies aren't coming in mid-season because I think that was just a weird thing when MLL did that. It's like, all
It
right,
was a weird thing. But and yeah, yeah, whatever.
um, but the initial point, the biggest one, they just cannot play NFL Sunday. They just
Yes, that
at
is
least
the
not at
point
3
we
p.m.
want to drive home.
Yeah. Um, and if we have the Rabels on here, that will be probably the if not the first thing, certainly the most passionate
That's
thing.
definitely I want to know the details on
Yeah.
yeah, I want
And
to
just
know the exact nitty-gritty on why that slot was chosen.
yeah. I mean, yeah, we know why because it's the only time ABC has,
But
but
no, but like I want to know like what other times were considered.
yeah. Yeah. And when might we see something different? Um,
Yeah.
actually, as Dan mentioned in his he's mentioned a couple times that the PLL media rights deal is up after this season. Um,
Okay.
so they'll be negotiating a new one. This is a big bit of news to leave our listeners on, but um, so they'll be renegotiating theoretically. They probably are negotiating now,
Yep.
but a new deal that would start sometime in 2026.
Yeah.
And so, hopefully that's more money. Hopefully that's a big jump in salary for players.
Yeah.
But then if it's with the ABC ESPN family again,
Hmm.
maybe we run into the same problems. Hopefully, ABC sees the growth and is willing to give them a better slot. Like maybe, all right, we're willing to bump, New Mexico State and uh, Appalachian State, like that Friday night football game to put the PLL championship on. Um, which PLL bumps college football. That would be such a fantastic headline. Um, or because I think they do like the ESPN Plus model. Or if maybe they go somewhere else. I don't know exactly where else to go. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, we'll see.
that is so that has the potential to change. I think it's likely to be the same story for the championship in 2025, but after that, we will see. Um, and hopefully it at least gives a big bump to players, even if everything else stays the same,
Right.
regarding scheduling.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we really got going on that. So thank you to Owen for that fantastic question that we talked for I think like 20 minutes on. Um,
Passionate topic.
yeah, I think this is one of the things that annoys PLL fans the most is the time of the championship, especially if your team's
Oh,
in it.
definitely.
Because your football team is also almost definitely playing at that time. Um,
Exactly.
yeah. Um, I guess unless you're an Archers fan, because then I don't know, BYU is your team. They play on Saturday. Uh,
I suppose. Yeah.
yeah, for 7 of those 8 fan
Well,
bases.
Redwoods technically. I know
Well,
all of California. I know the Chargers
yeah,
truly are San Diego, but like technically,
yeah,
but
yeah. Well, I mean,
regardless,
yeah,
let's wrap it up.
yeah. Let's wrap it up. So that was just thank you all for listening to that episode. We always go on longer than we think we will. So thank you for those great write-ins. We are going to be talking about Champ Series, about Pat Kavanaugh, so much more in the months to come. And again, this all happened on Thanksgiving. So we hope you are enjoying this other wonderful NFL day. Spending some time with family, friends, whoever you choose, eating some delicious food, watching the Cowboys lose, as we said. Um, and I think that's all. So we will be back tentatively with another player interview. Gave a little hint early in the episode, but we will definitely be posting about that when it's confirmed and when we can ask for your input on what to ask that player, who hopefully we see in Champ Series in a couple months. Uh,
Yeah, we'll
so
see.
again, yeah, happy Thanksgiving, and until next time, go Cannons.
Happy Thanksgiving. Go Cannons.
Boom.
Boo!